All right, well, it's nice to see all of you. Some of you I haven't seen in a long time. Thanks for coming. And yeah, this is really this amazing exhibit that we have here for the summer. It'll be here through October. How many of you came to the sneak peek? Okay, good. You won't hear the same thing over and over again. I'm actually going to start off with a little bit of history behind the originals of these heads, which these are not the originals. These are Weiwei's versions of a set of Zodiac heads that were in a very famous garden in China in the middle of the 1700s. And if you... too much wind, too many pieces of paper. But if you, this book is in the shop. It's a really good, brief guide to the whole thing. There's also a really beautiful coffee table book that has much more in-depth information. And then there's our cheat sheet, which is in our nice metal box over there.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So we're going to repurpose that box later on to just have info about the sculpture trail, but right now it has the specific info about the heads, and it has the whole system. So if you want to look up what animal you are, it's in there. But we're going to start off in the middle 1700s with a garden. The Ming Gardens was an emperor's garden in China, and it was meant to sort of celebrate the culture that they had, which at that point was being very much influenced by European culture. And so they had this great European-style palace in this garden, and there was a water clock that had the 12 zodiac figures in it. So on the hour, a zodiac head would spit water into the center. See that guy spitting water.
How do you pronounce that? I used to go to China.
Which is why all their mouths are open.
Right. It was this, crazy hydraulic timing system in the middle of the 1700s. So anyway, these are the models for the heads. This is an engraving from the 1800s.
Is it the same animal?
Yes.
Very cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then, more background, there will be an exhibit that will be in the Wapiti in June, July, August, through October, that will have a lot of this background information as well. So anyway, there was this beautiful garden in China with these heads and this beautiful water fountain. The water fountain and the heads were actually, there were some Jesuit priests who helped design this fountain in this garden, so it had a lot of European influences. By the middle of the 1800s, you get a series of altercations between China and the West, and in what they call the Second Opium War, the British and French troops came in and ransacked the garden, and at that point took a lot of this stuff. So a lot of this stuff was either taken by Chinese people or by troops, or it all sort of got ransacked, and all of the heads disappeared. So the original heads were more human-sized. As you can see in that picture, they were on kind of robed human-sized figures. So they were, this. About 20 years ago, some of these heads started showing up again in auctions. And so the first few showed up, and it didn't really seem to make that big of an impact, and they were traded or purchased. And then as more came on the market, it began to be a bit of an issue with Chinese national pride, and they wanted the heads returned to them because they had been stolen. By the last two heads that went up for sale, were in the collection of Yves Saint Laurent in his beautiful, amazing collection in 2009. And there was a huge uproar. The Chinese government petitioned to stop the auction. And they had a bidder on the phone who bid some ridiculous amount of money, who was a Chinese dealer, who then said he had just bid to prove what a mockery of the, nationality, or the mockery the sale was, and then he refused to pay. So the two heads in that auction, I think, are back in the Yves Saint Laurent collection, which belongs now to his partner. There were 7 heads in all that have been found, and those are the rat, and I'm going in order.
Those are the ones that were found?
The ones that we know about: the rat, the ox, the tiger, the rabbit, the horse, the monkey, and then the pig, which is right behind me. The ones that haven't been found are the dragon, the snake, the sheep, the rooster, and the dog. So those are still out there. Maybe they were melted down. Maybe they're in somebody's private collection. Nobody knows.
Are the ones in the Yves Saint Laurent collection found or not found?
No, they're
7?
right. So those are the ones anything that we know about that's come to auction has been found, and we know what they look like. And those were used as the models for these. And then Ai Weiwei and his team of artists came up with their own designs for the other ones. And you can see, if you look at the other ones, the snake and the dragon, the dog, there's a little bit of stylistic difference. The rooster. To me, some of the ones that have been found that are based on the earlier ones are a little bit simpler, and then the ones that Ai Weiwei got to design are a little bit more intricate. The only one that I would say that's not true for is the tiger, which has been found, and then that is a really beautiful, amazing rendition of it. So, you've got that history behind all this. You've got all these things building up to the Yves Saint Laurent auction and this big controversy. At the same time, Ai Weiwei and his group of people in the United States were talking about doing a large public sculpture, outdoor sculpture like this, and he said, I'll do the Zodiac heads from the garden. That will be a really amazing thing. And it'll talk about this issue that's happening right now in world politics. But Ai Weiwei's one of his main goals is you don't have to know about all that history. You can just come up to these, enjoy them for what they are, and look up your sign and have a good time interacting with the artwork. And then there are layers upon layers upon layers of meaning behind it. So he wants you to have fun, and he wants you then to learn more about it if you want.
Are there any other sets of these anywhere else?
There's one more set of these large ones, and they are right now in Chicago. And if you look there's a Zodiac Heads website, and it has future venues of where these heads are going to go.
A visitor from last week came and had seen these in a small garden in Washington, D.C., and just was thrilled with the way you put them up here.
Yeah.
That they're it's such a much better place.
I saw them in D.C. at the Corcoran, and they were inside the circle.
Yeah.
And they looked great, but this, I don't know, it's just so much more impressive.
She just
and
said it was
there's
so
this
much more
expansive
impressive.
view.
Were
So-
these the same size, the ones that she's
Yeah.
saying?
They
So
were
there's-
these.
There's another size of these, that's a smaller gold set that you would see on an inside installation, and these obviously are big outside public sculptures.
Adam, is this a permanent or just a visiting collection?
Visiting
Till
exhibit, unless everyone wants to pony up a ton of money and we can buy them. Bronwyn.
Could you do a mini bio of Ai Weiwei?
So yeah, I'm getting to the Ai Weiwei story
Sorry.
here in a minute.
Sorry.
This is a rambling tour.
We like it.
So,
Sorry.
Ai Weiwei, do you remember the 2008 Olympics in China?
Yes.
He helped design what they called the Bird's Nest, which was that beautiful Olympic stadium.
Yes.
The very famous Chinese artist. His father was a very famous Chinese poet. Ai Weiwei spent a decade or two in New York City and hung out with Andy Warhol. So very well known guy, very well known artist, but also very outspoken. So he, right before these premiered in New York in 2011, was incarcerated in China for 80 days without charges being filed against him. And this was kind of international art news, and people were very concerned about him. And currently, he's unable to leave China because they revoked his passport. So he hasn't seen these heads in these various installations in anywhere where they've been. So he does a lot of his work.
Why was he incarcerated?
What's that?
Why was he incarcerated?
They never filed any charges.
No charges.
So look,
Wasn't he in some kind of a peace prize?
He's
And they
outspoken
didn't
of the
like
government.
that? And
he
they
was
wouldn't let
going
him
to
go
see
out of
his
the country?
friend who was going to get the Nobel Prize.
So they wouldn't let him
They
go
wouldn't
out.
let
He's
him
in
out.
prison, but he can't leave the country.
He can't leave the country. He might be on house arrest, but I don't know what that means in terms of can he leave his house or.
But this is very in keeping with his work, in that he is always questioning and bringing awareness to Chinese culture.
Yeah.
So
So he's critical of Chinese culture. He advocates for human rights, all that stuff that you would do if you were talking about China and wanting to improve it from a different perspective. So he's never seen these. He's on house arrest. He does a lot of his work over the internet, directing other people to do things. So about a year ago, he had a huge art installation in Alcatraz, and he told the people what to do and where to put everything because he couldn't be there. So that's part of his practice. He worked with a team of artists and foundry workers to create these heads. This is a great picture of him on the back of this.
a big piece a few years ago that he did was he filled the turbine hall at Tate Modern with hand-painted sunflower seeds that he got different porcelain, and then I think you walked on them. But that was
And that's another thing that people made. He
Right,
did make
right.
millions of sunflower seeds.
However, in the video, Never Sorry, you can see him actually partaking in the making
Right.
process.
He doesn't just sit there the whole time. All right, so that's a little bit of the history of these, how they came to be, and some of the significance behind them. And then on last Friday, we had a great high school kid here tell the story, the origin story of the Zodiac heads, which was really fun. And so I will not do it as well as he did it, but I'm going to try to tell the origin story of these heads. The Zodiac system is still very important in China, and people still believe in it to some extent the way that we believe in astrology and your sign here in the United States. It has been denounced or denied by the communist government as being anything of real merit or value, but that hasn't stopped people from believing in it and planning their lives around it. Walt told us on Saturday that the Year of the Dragon is one of the most special and important years, and during the Year of the Dragon, the Chinese population saw a growth of, or the birth rate saw a growth of 10%. So people were waiting for the Year of the Dragon in order to have their babies, so it would have a special birth year. This year,
The year of the ram.
the ram.
Their calendar
That's the
is
other thing.
February
Their
15th.
calendar is slightly different. So depending on when you were born, it's slightly different than our calendar. So people that were born near the end of January, beginning of February, need to kind of be aware of how the Chinese New Year fell on that specific year to understand whether they're the year before or the year after. If you're like me and you were born in November, there's no issue. I am the rooster. So we think that the Zodiac system, the story and this way of understanding the world and your place in it, started between 500 BC and 200 AD. So there's a really long span of time when this began. It also is during the time when Buddhism comes to China and the time when cats were imported to China. So cats didn't exist, little cats, in the same way in China as they do today. The story of these heads goes that the Jade Emperor called for a race to create a calendar to track the cyclical nature of time, with each month signified by an animal symbol. 13 animals showed interest in participating in this race, and the 13th, because we only have 12 here, was the cat. The race was to be held probably over the Yangtze River, and before the race, the cat and the rat were best of friends. And the cat and the rat plotted together to win the race. They convinced the ox, which is number 2, to swim them across the river, and they would stand on top of the ox and guide him as he swam. So they were successful in this ploy. They got on the back of the ox, they swam all the way across the river, and then right before they got there, the rat pushed the cat off the back of the ox. So the rat then jumped off the ox's head and arrived first on the opposite shore, and so the rat gets first place in this system. Then the ox follows directly after. And this is a side myth, is this is why cats and rats, or cats and mice, hate each other. The cat drowned, or got whisked away in the water. So that's the first 2. The third one is the tiger, and he made his way across just by brute force. The fourth is the rabbit, who hopped from rock to rock and then got stranded on a log until a massive gust of wind blew him across the rest of the way, and he came in 4th. Now, number 5 is the dragon, and the question is, for an animal that can fly and that's so big and powerful, why did the dragon come in 5th and not 1st? The dragon is such a good-hearted and kind animal that it flew over the rest of China, bringing them rain and good luck. And then as it was coming in, he saw the rabbit stranded in the middle of the river and blew him across the rest of the river.
Couldn't help the cat though.
Right, didn't help the cat. So the rabbit comes, then the dragon. The snake and the horse came in very close together in sort of a similar way as the ox and the rat. The horse was galloping across using his power. The snake was coiled around his leg secretly. And the snake slithered off quickly at the last moment to beat the horse. So that's why the snake is number 6 and the horse is number 7. 9, 10, and 11, the ram, the monkey, and the rooster, they worked together and found a raft and propelled the raft across the river using teamwork. So they were awarded 9, 10, and 11, or 8, 9, and 10 by the emperor. And then, let's see, the last 2, the dog and the pig. The dog got number 11, and it's strange because in the Chinese mythology, the dog would be the strongest swimmer, but he got distracted and played around in the water and took a bath, and so he didn't make it over until near the end. And then the pig, and so some of these stereotypes translate to our stereotypes. The pig kind of went slowly and took some detours, stopped for a snack, took a nap, and then finally got it together to cross the rest of the way. So he came in last, but was awarded 12th place. So that's kind of an interesting way to talk about them and come down the line and tell this fun story about the why the order is the way that it is and some of the background behind. It may be that these symbols existed without this story, prior to this. It may be that after the cat was introduced to China, that part of the story was, integrated into it. But it doesn't matter a whole lot because it's just a fun way of narrating the whole thing. Let's see, Bronwyn, anything else that I missed?
That's awesome.
It is a great story. It is. It flows really well.
So Carrie videotaped this, and also Walt Deline, the high school kid, she videotaped that. So you guys will be able to.
And Walt did a way more eloquent job of telling the story than I did.
Is that on the website?
It will be very soon.
I watched it this morning. It's really good. So, yeah. Pick up a brochure. There's a little bit about Weiwei in there. There's great stuff online about him, videos with him. And then there's the what's your sign thing in here with the grid so you can get people to look that up. A little note about what's inside. We want people to come see these, but then come inside. So when we have the making of the Zodiac heads in the Wapiti Gallery, that'll help with that. And then a note about our kind sponsors who made this possible. It was not an inexpensive proposition. So we're really excited to have it, and excited to have you all talk about it and to have you here. Grace, did you want to say something about other things happening this summer?
So Adam mentioned that there would be a complimentary exhibit in the Wapiti Gallery talking about the process and the history behind these works. In addition, we will have open studio like we've had every year. There's several projects. All of those projects will be centralized around the Zodiac heads, including we've got these awesome stamps in which we will share with everyone. They have each of the Zodiacs. So we'll use our museum blank postcards so that people can send postcards and tell their friends all about the Zodiacs. We will also have hopefully a station. Adam mentioned that a lot of times Ai Weiwei doesn't necessarily make his work, but he sort of commissions it, if you will. So we're hoping that we can have him, one of our connections is actually going to talk to Ai Weiwei about coming up with some directives about things to make. So there'll be essentially like a toolbox with several different things in it, and then you pull out a card that says like, make a sculpture based around the cycles of the moon, and then you'll have to use some of the materials to make that work. And that's just a couple of the projects that we'll have in there, and we'll also do a little bit more of a detailed training when we have that all set up, so that you guys can get excited about making those things and also getting visitors in there and really thinking about like the making interpretive side of these sculptures. So, yeah.
Do you want to mention the film screening as well?
Yeah, so in addition to a lot of the summer programming that we're doing, on July 29th, it's going to be in the evening because it's going to be outside. It's going to be a film screening of Never Sorry, which is the film that I mentioned. That's primarily about Ai Weiwei's political stance as well as his sort of artistic process. So that's really great. It'll be free. We have Snake River Brewing coming in and vending, as well as Jackson Pop, and hopefully we'll get the pathways to come up here and to encourage people to use our wonderful bike path to come join us for that. When is that? That's July 29th, and it's going to probably be from 8 to 10 based upon the sunset. So it'll be out in the amphitheater, so we'll have a big screen and everybody can sit out there and have some. Yeah.
Perfect.
Through October.
Perfect. And I'd just like to mention too, Maggie has already gotten some calls from tour groups that are interested specifically in receiving tours on these sculptures. So if you would like to tell the story that Adam and Walter shared with us, if these are really speaking to you, please talk to Maggie, because we're going to be, wanting to find some docents who are really interested in. Well, yes, if you speak Chinese, that might also be very helpful. Yeah, we have a variety of tour groups that have expressed a lot of interest in these sculptures. So please speak to Maggie if you're interested in leading, leading tours focused on these. She would love to set you up with some groups.
And just as additional resources, that film that I mentioned is in our gift shop. It's on Netflix streaming, and it's also at the library. So that's called Never Sorry. And then there's also a couple of other really amazing books right now down at the gift shop as well, sort of talking more about each specific animal, the specific year, and even times and how they relate to which zodiac is yours based upon your birth time.
Which library? The museum library or downtown?
The Teton County Library.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for anyone? Perfect. Well, yeah, enjoy, spend some time up here. visit with your animal. And yeah, then come on down to the members lounge whenever you're ready, and we'll chow down. Thanks, everyone.
There's 2 sets. And 1 set is a Chicago. And one other thing I'll say is that this pole, it's maybe meant to reference a stream of water that's spouting up to hold the heads up, so it references the original fountain. But it also just is a cool natural element that you might think of as a tree trunk.